how did you navigate difficulties in your life? Have you ever gone through something in your business where you felt like you really couldn't connect? And as I started to ask these right questions, it really started to spur a new conversation around, Greg is this athlete, which was a lot of the mindset pieces, but what Greg realized through his pain in order to help him. Hello, and welcome back to the Connected Mindset Live. I'm your host, Greg Tomchick. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Over the past about a year, we've been able to put on this show. I'm going to dive into that story here shortly about how this show came about. But I just want to take some time to thank you. The only reason we've been able to get here is because of the listener, the person tuning in, liking, subscribing, even joining the show as a guest. And that's what's got us to this point. And I feel like it's my duty to you to be able to distill some of the lessons we've had over the about 35 episodes up to this point. Most episodes are about 45 minutes to an hour. And we dive very deep on what connections mean to that individual. And they come from all walks of life, whether they're doctors, business leaders, community leaders, people who are going through their own tough journey and have found a way to make sense of it. And that's what I want to bring to you today is some of those lessons distilled down into actionable takeaways that you can implement into your life. So the story of the connected mindset was one of relatively humble beginnings. I was not a very social kid growing up. I was part of a military family. We had relatively strict ways we went about doing things. And it was kind of a quiet confidence. And I remember an article was written about me when I was in high school. I was a star baseball player. I was doing really well in the field. I always struggled in school because I didn't really relate to the curriculum, and it didn't light the fire within me to be able to relate to it enough to be passionate about it, to kind of overachieve or strive for more. So I just did the basics. And the article was Tomchick leads by example with few words. And this writer got this point basically by having a phone call with me. And he realized that a lot of my answers didn't have a lot of fluff. They were right to the point. I always tried to listen to people and obviously listen more than I talk and extract lessons in a way that was able to be actionable both for myself and those that I felt like I had the duty to lead, whether that was people on my team, younger people. I always felt like I had a duty to serve them with that superpower that I have to distill down information. And that's really made me so attracted to a platform like this to be able to deliver both the insights, the stories, and then, in this episode, the actual lessons that I've taken away and implemented into my own life. This show started as a business show. So at the time of starting this show, I was going through about 3 divorces. So I had a divorce in my personal love life, a divorce in my business from business partners, and then a divorce from my identity as a baseball player. I was a professional baseball player. I grew up, since the age of 4 playing professional baseball. And that is how I developed all of my morals and values, basically, all the things about how I viewed life, my perspective, my perceptions of others and how they worked together or separate, how they process failure. And that was a huge part of me. That's who Greg was. He was the baseball player. I wasn't great at school, so he definitely wasn't the academic. He was the person who could excel on the baseball field, and that's where I thrived. And when I got out of professional baseball, for a number of reasons, and we'll probably dive into that on one of the future shows, I didn't know who I was. And it took me 6-7 years. That sounds like a very long time, but it took me about 6-7 years. And to start my own company, this is like my 7th company starting, but it was really starting a company, with investors, with people who were buying into this vision that I casted. And it took me until that time to really realize that I was still running back to that identity of baseball player. I was trying to take those lessons from my baseball days and implement them into business. And there wasn't congruency there. There wasn't a direct alignment between baseball player. Obviously, there's some similar traits that benefit that business person, but there was not alignment and congruency in the person I needed to be able to build, run, and scale a successful business. And as I was going through those divorces, I craved connection with the world. And as I started to set my standards, as I started to have talk therapy and different types of modalities to try to make sense of the world around me, I quickly realized that I was disconnected from the world. Maybe social media made me feel, you know, to some extent connected in certain periods of time. But when I sat with myself, I felt extremely disconnected in a number of ways. Obviously, when I went out with friends and was with, business partners and clients and things, I felt connected in that moment or those moments to follow. But it wasn't something that I could carry on and really kind of put in my tool belt and carry as I was alone, having my own thoughts. And I started to have conversations in my business about this with board members. I was consulting with some of the top companies in the United States and local companies here in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And the topic was around cybersecurity, but I started to ask them questions about, how did you navigate difficulties in your life? Have you ever gone through something in your business where you felt like you really couldn't connect? And as I started to ask these right questions, it really started to spur a new conversation around, Greg is this athlete, which was a lot of the mindset pieces. But what Greg realized through his pain in order to help him be able to better connect with people, things, ideas, priorities. We all want to prioritize in life. And what came to me was the connected mindset. It was just one day I was thinking about it. I was having a conversation with an executive locally, and he mentioned, Greg, you really have a innate ability, a superpower to connect to ideas that are complex, that make sense to the general person. And I took that away and really wanted to bring that to the wider world. I was having these one-on-one conversations with people, asking them these extremely in-depth questions. Sometimes people were like, that's way too, far in the weeds, and they wanted to have surface level conversations. Those were not the people that I wanted to be around. But when I had those conversations and people wanted to get at depths, I started to think, what if I could share this with the individual who's going through something similar to what I was going through or will eventually? How could that impact that individual? How could they go and take that and impact their community? And how could that community then go and impact the world? And it really set my soul on fire to be able to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to talk about woo-woo stuff. I didn't want to talk about, self-help or self-development. Obviously, these terms are all for the best of the individual. I really wanted to build a show, and it started as a business show. Now it's more of a storytelling show that helped people to self-discover. And through these conversations, you hear other people's story. And when you get to a point where you start to hear the voice inside you talk and interact with that person's story as you're digesting it, that's where self-discovery takes place. It's a new way of thinking about personal development where it's not a step-by-step system. On this show, we never try to get somebody to give you the step-by-step system. They may have a process they take people through to get people to self-discover what they need to get them to the next level. But that's what the connected mindset is all about. It's about self-discovery. It's about being exposed to stories that are going to shift you forward or help you connect to a new idea, a new mindset, a new feeling. One of my missions in life is to help people think and feel better. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. A lot of times, 90% of our feelings are coming from our thoughts. And a lot of us are in a hurricane of potentially negative thoughts because there's a lot of negativity going around us. And we have to take ownership of that. We have to take responsibility. And that's what this show has helped me do by default by being the person that's hosting it. And I just want to continue to spread that across the world. I've been able to travel both internationally and throughout the United States, and will continue to, because of what the connected mindset has become. And that is really thanks to you for subscribing, supporting, liking on social media. Every time you do that, it spreads it to the next person. It's passing the baton, passing the baseball, passing the proverbial football to the next person to be able to benefit from it. We're not in this to make money. Obviously, money will come and it'll help the show continue to get better. And we're really at a phase right now where we're starting to look at the connected mindset as what can it do beyond the local borders, beyond the internet, events. How can we get better guests, better production? All of that is right around the corner. And this episode is really the start of that, where we're going to distill down 10 connected lessons that I've learned from interviewing hundreds of world leaders. So we've had about 35 episodes on this show. I had a previous show with a business partner. We did about 25, 30 episodes. But in my career after baseball as a cybersecurity expert, I got to interview, thousands of business executives, Fortune 10, all the way down to startup entrepreneurs who were just getting started. Maybe they had a great consulting career, had a big idea to change the world. I've been able to interview them and simply ask them, what has made you successful? What makes this company successful? How do you feel about your people? How do you feel about where the internet's headed? And what mindsets do you use to stay sane on a daily basis? I have been in a unique position to talk to both sports leaders, business leaders, and community leaders to try to distill down those lessons. And that's what we're going to continue to do on this show through these interviews each week. Definitely want to hear your feedback as we go through this. All of these lessons are going to be in the show notes. Basically, have 10 lessons from 10 different episodes that really impacted me. And you're going to be able to go back and check out the full episode if it's something that really resonates with you. This show is always going to meet you in the middle. We're never trying to tell you how to do things or shove anything down your throat. It's really giving you the ability to connect to a new individual that has a new perspective. Hopefully, when you hear them speak or hear myself speak, you start to hear the voice in your own head that's helping you self-discover what you need to push through the obstacle you're going through. Difficulties are going to come. We're going to talk about this in episode or lesson 4, which is partner with your pain, which is something that has been a breakthrough for me recently because I always tried to push pain aside. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So connected lesson 1. We had Lauren Zoller on the show last week. A lot of the insights that she brought to the show was very insightful for where I was and currently am going through, as I'm working through those kind of 3 divorces. I feel like I have been out of the baseball divorce for a while because I've been able to consume myself in both the connected mindset as well as in my business. And I now look at baseball as a way for me to depart lessons on other people who are playing the game, be able to give back to the community. And one of the things that she brought to the table, which I've always believed but never knew what it felt like to actually carry this out, is she mentioned the best relationships start with you. I think we all know this, but in the relationships that I had, whether business or personal, I always realized that I was trying to patch a deficiency in me with somebody else. And if I couldn't bring my full confident self and knowing my self-worth in the situation, whether it went great or went completely haywire and the relationship failed, business or personal, then it wasn't going to be successful either way. Because what it was doing, it was putting a Band-Aid on the symptom and it wasn't going to the root cause. Today, some of these conversations I get to have are with such conscious people and they know themselves so well and their standards that they find it so easy to speak to those standards, and they just tend to attract the right people who are going to align with those standards going forward. And that's how you build your real community. Most of the time relationships are so surface level because people don't know their standard. They don't know what they believe, and they don't know how to speak it to people in a way that is not going to feel like you're hurting their feelings, or you're maybe losing out on a relationship because you're too strong in what you believe. It all starts with you, and this is a continual journey. It's never going to stop. But once I realized, took a step back, slowed things down, and really realized that if I was not whole, there was no way that I could have a healthy relationship. So I basically, not secluded myself, but realized I had to do some dark work, as Anthony Truck said, who's a former NFL player, American Ninja Warrior contestant. I believe he won it. He talks a lot about dark work, because as we go through these situations in life, when we're tested to the ultimate capacity, you have to do the pre-dark work and know yourself in order to get through that. And I think about that in relationships. Relationships are going to get hard. And if you don't know who you are and what you feel, then you're not going to be able to effectively navigate that tough discussion or that tough situation. So I think that's a great place to start, because the connected mindset is all about self-discovery. It's obviously about action. We love action. Action is the only reason this show exists, that I'm on the screen right now, that you decided to show up. You're taking action. We can't just sit and think all day. We can't be overthinkers. We can't just sit here and ruminate. We have to think, connect to the actual action, and take it. Take the step forward. Take the uncomfortable action, the imperfect action, to make things happen. The next one is an important one, and this was from James Doe, who's a person that I really look up to here in the Hampton Roads region. Has done some great things to break down barriers in my local area, and it's something that really pulls on a heartstring for me. But in his episode, which you guys can check out in the show notes, we talk a lot about community, and he brought up this topic called opaqueness of needs. And when people think of opaqueness, you can see through somebody's need, or you can make it so clear that people can see it. A lot of times, as a young business, or even as a person trying to get into a relationship, we hold information back, and we hold our real needs back, and we think the other person is going to know what that need is. This has been huge in my business, because what I realized is most of the time they don't even know what you need, but you're saying, we want to do business with you. We want to grow our business. These very general things that you bring to folks. And when you just be completely real about what you need, hey, we need $10,000 more this month to pay our payroll. We need $5,000 more to buy this new tool that's going to help us better serve you. It's amazing what happens when you're able to bring those needs. We need 5 more clients in order to get our business to the next level, to hire the next person. And we will find a way to make that benefit you if you can help us do that. That is opaqueness of needs. That's laying it all out there in a way that the person can really see exactly what you need, and then they can actually take targeted action to help you. A lot of times we're beating around the bush, and we're saying these terms, minimum viable product, and all of these different business terms that really distract people from, you have an idea, you have a desire to have a relationship. What do you actually need? Maybe you need somebody to rub your head every night. Maybe you need somebody to just say, Greg, I care about you, and I love you today. And maybe that's all you need to feel great and fulfilled and joyful about life. But if you don't communicate that, you're never going to get exactly what you need. So, my advice, and something that I've taken, back to myself after that episode, is just tell people what I need. If they run the other direction, then, they're not right to help me reach that need. And when people are very clear about the needs they have, I'm a person who loves helping people. So I will go to all ends of the earth to make sure that this individual achieves it. But it starts with them being clear and opaque about the need that they have. Connected lesson 3, Ben Talon. He's from Switzerland. I met him when I was in Switzerland. And one of the things that Ben brings to the table, he's a futurist. So I don't know if you guys have ever met a futurist. Hopefully you checked out that episode. I've met one other futurist before Ben. Her name was Amy Webb. And she was talking a lot about artificial intelligence, and most futurists are technology based because the future is technology, space, and some of the other tools that are being developed currently. Obviously, we're in the technology revolution, but technology is rapidly evolving. So a lot of futurists are on a technology track, but Ben looks at the future a little bit different. And I look at Ben as a cross blend of anthropology, which is the study of culture, business, and technology. So he brings all those together. And one of the things that Ben talked about a lot on his episode was question everything. I think a lot of us here question everything. We're like, hey, you're going to get annoying if you ask too many questions. And to Ben, question everything was when you look at something, when you look at the wall, when you look at the light switch, how is that built? What did the person have to do in order to get it from the factory to that wall? Obviously, this can somewhat distract certain people, but if you're very focused in how you question the different things in your life, looking at a relationship, a conversation, how did what I said make this person feel like? When they said this, I felt like this. Why did I feel that way when they said that? So learning to be curious and question everything is one of the most valuable skills that you can have in life. And Ben brings that to the world through business, technology, and culture. And he's doing things consciously, and it's taken him years to get here, but he's on the precipice of breaking a barrier that's existed in business since business started, back in the Roman days, and people started to trade things. And with that became a lot of distractions and confusion. He's helping business owners break through that using software and technology. And it's just fascinating how he's been able to question things, but how his thoughts, because he questions things, are so focused and tailored to where the world is headed. And it was just a fascinating discussion, something I really enjoy. Obviously, I enjoy technology. I look at it as a tool. It's not the end all be all. But a lot of these futurists look at where culture is headed and then how these tools play into improving culture. Because there's two ways we can go. We can either improve or we go the down route and have years of destruction and folks being manipulated in a way that destroys culture. So definitely check out that episode. So the next one is Arthi Sura, Dr. Arthi Sura, who's from Michigan. She talks a lot about the nervous system. I've been on kind of a rampage around the nervous system because I realized post-athletics how important the nervous system is, how there's a lot of generational trauma, generational impacts on our nervous system by how we're raised, how our parents are raised, where their parents came from, how their parents raised them. This is all at kind of a cellular level, and it's sometimes hard to understand, but the nervous system is something that controls your heartbeat, how you think, how your body functions, how you feel, healthy, unhealthy. It's really one of those things that can bring you severe pain or make you feel severely well, if that makes sense. From when you feel good, you think good. And like I mentioned, one of my missions is to help people think and feel better. And the nervous system is at the core of that. Arthi mentioned a concept of partnering with your pain. So obviously, as I mentioned, why this show was created, I was going through a lot of different parallels of divorce or different parallels of negativity in my life that I had to get over. And she mentioned a concept on the show. It wasn't for me specifically, but I took this away. When you partner with your pain, whatever you've gone through in life, we've all gone through something that has been extremely painful or has impacted us negatively. And we've been able to get through it. You might be going through it right now. But if you become its partner, you look at it, you recognize it, you realize it's there, you realize it happened, you realize there's some ways to get over it and get through it, you don't push it aside. It becomes a part of your tool belt that you use to benefit you. I think about, different situations growing up where, maybe I had a friend or a girlfriend betray me. Now that I have that pain, and that pain as a partner, when I'm going into new relationships, or I'm listening to a friend, or I'm going through a business discussion, I'm able to ask questions and look for things that may have indicators of those past relationships. We don't want to repeat the past. So if we can use our pain to really help inform us to learn lessons and then not repeat those lessons, our life becomes better. A lot of times we try to stuff down the pain, that's depression. We try to put it aside. We try to forget about it, or forgive the person, or forgive ourselves. And then we just repeat it over and over again. And it's a revolving cycle because we haven't partnered with our pain. So that's going to be something that, I'm going to continue to do going forward as I have more pain, go through crazy situations, business and personal. I'm going to find a way to partner with it, and I'm going to make it a healthy partner for me, something that benefits me as opposed to brings me down, and something that I repeat. So hopefully you guys found benefit from that. Connected lesson number 5, John Malura. John Malura is a former NASA rocket scientist, and he achieved some incredible things when it came to helping NASA get to space. His episode was extremely fascinating, so definitely check it out in the show notes. He talks a lot about confidence, self-worth, imposter syndrome. He felt like he was getting presented an award for, one of the best rocket scientists, in his division, or for this project to help the US government get to a goal they've been going to for hundreds of years. And he's being presented this award on a stage, and he feels like an imposter. He feels like he is not worthy of this award, because he was always looking to the future of how can I get better. He wasn't really enjoying everything he had accomplished up to that point. So it kind of made it where he didn't enjoy that moment of achieving and receiving that award. And he realized his self-worth, which I've talked a little bit about this across the show, was linked to achievement. So even though he was achieving something and receiving something in that moment, he was thinking about the next achievement. What's the next $1 million? What's the next contract we're going to get? How do we get to the next planet? And this really gave him a sense of emptiness, and he realized he didn't have much confidence. So he helps people today develop confidence. And he talks about this concept of archive of awesomeness. And I found this incredible because when I was a kid and I'd have a tough game, in my room, I had a shelf of trophies. And not that those trophies meant anything. And today I use this for, marathons I run, or business awards that I get. It's not the trophy or the award that means much. But what it shows is a reflection of being able to go through hard stuff and come out the other side with a win, with a achievement. It's the event, the experience that means something. So when you can stack up mementos of those experiences, put them in a central area. I have hard days. 2 out of every 5 days is probably hard in my world today. Building a company, going through people changes, hiring new people. There are ups and downs. But when you have this reconnection to what makes you awesome, and it's not all about your achievements, it's those experiences you've had that make you uniquely you. And when you have something that you can connect to when things are hard, it's almost like a soul cleansing. It just refreshes everything and says, okay, I've been through hard things that are similar to this. I've been able to get through them. Here is a recognition of that. Let's keep going. And it just kind of recharges you when you get into that negative stance. Archive of awesomeness. So find a way to build your archive of awesomeness. It could be, high school, college yearbooks, or it could be your diploma. A lot of people have their diploma, their jerseys on their wall. This is a version of archive of awesomeness. And it's an incredible thing to connect to, both for your confidence, for your self-worth, and so that you don't feel like an imposter. You are uniquely you, and you have to be confident in that, or it's going to be something that brings you down and you're going to be trying to be like other people. So connected lesson 6, Sheetal Ajmani. She's been on the show twice, an incredible physician who is now helping business owners go through different self-care revolutions and really process all of the things that they're going through in their business and personal life. Sheetal and I connected on a number of levels to be able to connect to some of the things she learned as a doctor, as a person, as a business owner. She's doing a lot of different things that she's able to bring together and connect to be able to relay, mindsets and lessons. And, that's what this show's all about. And I'm going to have her on probably for a third time here, next 20 episodes or so. And she talked on the last episode, so it was the second episode with her, which will be in the show notes, about the nervous system being your superhighway to life. And as I talk about the nervous system connects all of our different organs. It's what makes us feel fight or flight. It's what makes us feel sick when we're run down. It's what powers us to be able to get from where we are to where we want to be. If you're not controlling your nervous system, a lot of people, as Lauren Zoller mentioned on the last episode, we're doing all the rituals. We're meditating. We're waking up and grounding. We're talking to ourselves in the mirror with positive affirmations. We are drinking our water in the morning. We're eating healthy. All of these things are contributors to a healthy nervous system. But if you don't confront the wounds, the traumas, the cuts that you have in your nervous system, through breathing, there's yoga, there's somatics, which we talked about with Lauren, and there's ways to actually exercise your nervous system to be able to make sure it's healthy. It is the super highway. So if you think about the highway's not there, it doesn't matter what car you have, you're not getting across. So you have to make sure you're taking care of that super highway so that whatever thought, whatever situation is going to be able to go through your body in a smooth way so you can make decisions that are best for you. And a lot of our decisions come from feeling. They come from our gut feeling, how we feel about something. Obviously, you can think your way through a situation. But one of the things that was very informational, educational was the nervous system feels when somebody says something to you. That causes your heart to beat quicker. When your heart is beating quicker, you want to make a split decision. Oftentimes we don't make good decisions. We go and eat that bad thing we didn't want to eat. We go and say, oh, I'm not going to, exercise, or I'm going to do this bad thing for my body, because your body is almost getting to the point where it's like, we need you to take action because your heart is beating so fast. There's a term called heart rate variability, which is the separation between heartbeats. And a high heart rate variability, think about like a 90, means that your heart has less time between heartbeats. And you want your heartbeat to be slow. They used to talk about this when I would be on the pitcher's mound. Greg, you have a slow heartbeat. This was one of the things that got me to where I was in baseball. A lot of my coaches recognize that when the situation gets hard, your heartbeat gets slower, and we can see it. Obviously, I did breathing exercises and things of that nature, but I take that into business today. When things get really hard, I try to take a step back. I honestly sometimes put my hand on my heart like this, and people are like, Greg, are you having a heart attack? And what I'm doing is I'm consciously slowing my heart down because I want to be able to make the decision thinking slow and making sure I make the right decision based off of what's right for me and the people that I care about around me. When people say live with your heart, this is what they're saying. You have to live, with the heartbeat you're going and putting out. And your heartbeat is in your control, whether, you're healthy, unhealthy. You can actually control your heartbeat based off of consistent activities, whether that's exercise, breathing, or just awareness of what your heart rate is and using it to your power. I use it today by doing something like this, where I know if my heart rate's fast, I'll ask everybody in the room, can you please, give me a second? I need to think about a few things, and I'll go into my notebook here. I use a Remarkable, and I'll just kind of write down some thoughts that will help me slow down my heart rate. So just want everybody to think about, what the nervous system is to you. We've had 3 or 4 episodes on it now. You can go back to those, but this is what is going to separate you from everybody that you're competing with if you know how to control your superhighway, control your nervous system. Extremely important, something that I've practiced, seen the benefits of, and I hope you do as well. Connected lesson number 7. Russell Benaroya, author, marathon runner. He's done some ultras. Russell is in the marketing business, and he is somebody who really blends the athletic and the business side of things. He's an athlete. He gets what it looks like, what it seems like to be in what he calls your genius zone, which we all want to get into. We all want to be in something that really fires us up, that the world will, pay us for or recognize in a way that fuels us to continue down that mission. And one of the ways that Russell recommended getting into your genius zone is doing a daily inventory. A lot of people talk about journaling, writing things down, and sometimes we can get carried away with these modalities, these practices where they become a time sink, where we're just thinking, writing, and not doing. And one of the things that Russell does is he does this inventory of gains and drains. So think about, things that help fuel you and things that help drain you, things that help fill your cup, things that help, or things that hurt by draining your cup. And he does this inventory for 3 to 5 minutes a day. It's all of his journaling. And most journaling is writing down what went well, what went wrong. What do I need to do going forward to stack the good and get rid of or learn from the bad? And this is something I've incorporated into my life. I have my structure of how I journal each day, things that went well, things I want to do tomorrow and accomplish. It's called my GSD list. Shout out Bedros Keuilian for the get shit done list. It's just a good way to prioritize. And one of the things I've added is gains and drains. So as I go through my daily life, all the activities I'm doing on the business side, things I'm doing for my kids, my family, I try to think about how those things made me feel in the moment as well as after. And what I've realized through that is energy is our most valuable resource. We look at a lot of resources. In my business life, there's people throwing all types of terms at me, but I think of resources as things that we have that we can use, things that we get to experience that we can use to benefit ourselves or those around us. Most of us think about resources as time, money, information in the cybersecurity world, IT world. I think about one of the most valuable resources that impacts all of those is our energy. It impacts how much money we make. It impacts the ability to bring ourselves to spend quality time on the things we want to spend time on. There's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with spending your time on things that help move the money needle. But what about your energy? What about where you're spending your time? What does that mean to you? How are you creating meaning from that energy you're exerting in order to make your life better, to experience more joy? That's something that's really impacted me. I've been able to get rid of a lot of the things that drain me, whether that was, drinking alcohol or going out with friends and doing things I knew was not congruent with who I wanted to be. There's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. If you like to drink alcohol, go for it. But I realized it was something that drained me. Sometimes I like to enjoy it, but it's more as a celebration. It's more of a thing that I'll enjoy periodically. Before, it was something that I would go to in order to distract myself from, some of those drains that I was having. It would make me temporarily feel like I had a gain, and then I would be 2 times as drained as I was before. And that exercise after that episode helped me get to that point, helped me connect to that mindset that now shapes my life and shapes how I live it on a daily basis. Connected episode 8. I did mention this a little bit earlier. I think it was in lesson 1. Anthony Trucks was on the show. I think it was between episode 14 and 17. I'll make sure to put the episode in the show notes. But Anthony Trucks has spoken on stages with Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, many of the top speakers, Brandon Bouchard, some of these people who are just massive speakers. And I look up to Anthony Trucks because he speaks his journey so clearly. He had went through difficulties in his relationship. He was getting out of the NFL. he was doing a lot of athletic things, and he realized that he was putting aside the hard work he needed to do. And he started to talk about these concepts of dark work and shadow work. The dark work is confronting the things you know you need to confront so that you can bring your best self to the world in a non-distracted way. So think about that as like, the trauma therapies, looking at everything in your life and saying, holy cow, I've been just distracting myself from this whole area. I need to do the dark work to recognize and then come to peace with those areas of life. The shadow work is the work that helps you prepare for the game. The dark work helps you prepare, but the shadow work is running the 20 miles in order to, thanks for that, Simon. Appreciate you joining us. The shadow work is running the 10 miles in order to prepare for the marathon. And that's the work that nobody sees. There's no recognition to it. Nobody's coming patting you on the back saying, good practice today. You did well. You have to do that on your own. You have to do that shadow work. The deep work is kind of the continuous. The shadow work is preparing you for that next disaster, preparing you for that next challenge. And he talks a lot about this on his show. So I'm going to link his show with that connected lesson here, because he talks a lot about speaking to freedom, helping people speak on stages. That's something I'm passionate about and growing my speaking business. So he's been a great mentor in that area. But I encourage you all to do that dark work, confront the hard things in your life. And then as you go through, the shadow work, the things that are preparing you for where you want to get to, the challenges you're going to face, don't expect people to recognize that. You have to get that reiteration, that fulfillment, that thing that's going to help you gain and fill up your cup. You have to get that internally. You cannot seek that externally. It's going to be a non-fulfilling prophecy, as I say. Some people say fulfilling prophecy. And that's something that is just not going to happen. So, you have to save yourself. You have to give into yourself and find ways to fill your own cup up. Connected lesson 9. So we're getting right toward the end, and I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks so much for joining us. I see Hope's in the audience. Hope, always a pleasure to see you. Simon Lindstedt here actually helped us to start this show, introduced us to how to set it up. And this show wouldn't exist if it wasn't for him. So Simon, just so appreciate you, and looking forward to everything you're building and being a contributor to the impact you're making. Connected lesson 9, Wally Schmader. Wally Schmader is with the local Vistage group. Vistage is a great executive leadership group throughout the United States. He is the partner at Leaders Lab, and basically what they study all day is leadership. And what does a great leader look like? How do we educate leaders to adapt to the changing times in technology? That's a lot sometimes what we talk about in the connected mindset, because we have to lead ourselves. But if we're going to go about and do something positive in this world and leave a legacy, we have to lead others as well. But that, going back to lesson 1, it starts with you. And Wally mentioned a concept that I hadn't heard before. I've felt it from past coaches. I've seen cultures built around it. But he mentioned a simple definition of leadership. And this could be self-leadership or community leadership, business leadership. Leadership is making people better on your watch. So just think about that in anything you're doing. It could be a webcast like this. It could be the social media posts that you're putting out. You're a leader if, as a result of what you're putting out, somebody gets better as a result. So being a leader is not a title. It's not CEO, COO. It's not chief, experience officer. It's not a role that somebody puts on you and labels you with. Being a leader in anything is making people better as a result of the interaction, as a result of the experience. And it's that simple. It's something that really took me back, because when I think about leadership, I think about all these complex things like good communicator. Obviously, you have to be able to communicate. I think about stern, being able to confront things that are hard, being somebody that yells at people when they need to. Maybe the leader of the household gives spankings. It's a lot of people think of leadership as this complex role. I'm the alpha. I'm the person who is in charge of all of this. And that is all ego. That is somebody bringing their ego into a situation, saying, I'm the leader, I am the head honcho, and you need to listen to me. And that is not a leader. If they're not making people better, if they're bringing people down, they're not a leader. And I would not recommend following them. I have been in that situation before where I felt like leadership was telling people what to do. If you telling them what to do is not making them better as a person, maybe it's not what they want, but it has to be what they need to make them better. And that takes time to discover that individual. And that's leadership. That's something I've implemented into my own business where every interaction I have, I try to find at least one way to make them better. And that helps me evolve my leadership abilities. That helps me, be a leader in whatever I am doing. And that's positive impact. I don't care about a label or a role. You can call me whatever you want. But if at the end of the day I make you better, that means I am leading you to a place that you want to go, and that is going to benefit you. And that's the type of leader that I want to be. And Wally helped me connect to that mindset. And that episode shifted everything I thought about, leading a business, helping a business scale, helping prioritize both the things that I have on my plate as well as what other people had on their plate as well. So that's a fascinating episode. That is Connected Lesson 9, going to be in the show notes. Connected Lesson 10. So this brings us right around to the concept of connection. One of the things that I ask at the end of each show, which is something that I asked early on before this show was manifested and existed, when I would leave a conversation, I would ask somebody, on the other side of the table, that one-on-one discussion that I really wanted to bring to you in the world, what does connection mean to you? And when I first started asking that question, I got so many answers, it's being connected on social media, being able to reach out to my mom across the world, being able to communicate and relay and sell a skill from my room to somebody who is thousands of miles away. And I've gotten so many fascinating answers. Hopefully you guys have heard some of those on these episodes, and we're going to continue to ask that. We're probably going to have some type of connected mindset journal that's going to have all of these compiled into what connection means for different people in different stages, different facets, different specialties of life. And we're going to try to distill that down into a way that you can take that into your life to be more connected. And connected, could be people, ideas, could be mindsets. It could just be connecting to yourself in a way that, feels good, makes you feel more joy, more fulfillment. And Ben Kollerick with Brand Builders Group. So Brand Builders Group is a group of individuals that help and are experts at helping people build their personal brand. It's a community that I'm a part of. It's been such a gain for me because I've always been into personal branding, but I was really confused on what my brand was, and they've really helped me, narrow that down, which has been great. And Ben joined the show to talk a little bit about Brand Builders Group, but really to tell his story. He also had military parents, had been to Norfolk, Virginia before. So it was great to connect with him on that level. And one of the ways that he answered what is connection to him is connection is the currency that compounds. So I want you to think about, what does connection mean to you in your life? And, what is currency? A lot of people think of currency as money. Obviously, money is a form of currency, but currency is something you can exchange. So you can exchange your energy, you can exchange your time, you can exchange services that you have in your business, you can exchange expertise and information. These are all currencies. And when you stack those up and look at all of those as resources you have to connect with the world around you, we talk a lot about connecting with, not connecting to, because connecting to is most of the time a one-way transaction. It's not a two-way street where you connect with something and it gives back to you. It's kind of that relational piece that we talk about a lot on the show. It's being connected to things that give you mutual benefit, give you gains at the end of the day. The currency that compounds. When we think about compounding, we think about 2x, 5x, 10x, 20x. A lot of influencers today talk about 10xing your idea or 10xing your business, 100xing. It's a popular term to make people feel that sense of compounding. We all like to compound. We like to save time, energy, money. And if you can take information like connection, like these connection resources that we talk about, think about them all as a currency, really see them and visualize them, and then find a way to help it compound by feeding into those areas of connection in your life. That's something that I talk a lot about when I go give keynotes and speeches, is how can you compound the connections that you're making? And it could be asking people better questions. It could be putting the fear aside of walking up to somebody and saying, I love your jacket. You look great today. I wanted to come over and introduce myself because I felt like, I felt a need to just tell you that. And that could be the simple interaction where, and then the person may be like, hey, I heard you're a baseball player. My son's a baseball player. Do you have any recommendations? Yeah, I have, here's the biggest things I think at that age I wish I would have done. And it gives back and forth because I'm able to bring out something I'm so passionate about and benefit that person and their son, and their path forward by giving them information that hopefully helps them time collapse, having to learn that lesson on their own. And that is the core of connection. That is the core of the connected mindset. It's asking great questions, connecting to people, ideas, concepts, priorities, to help both yourself and others think and feel better. You're going to hear me say that a lot. That's where our show is headed. This started as a business show. It has shifted to a storytelling show, which I'm extremely passionate about. I've always loved stories. I've loved in-depth conversations. And that's what this show has quickly become. Our guests are going to get better. Our production's going to get better. I'm going to continue to get better in my interview skills and the way that I communicate, use words. I'm extremely excited about it. And I'm so glad that you've checked out either this episode or one of our episodes in the past. Please continue to share this show. Find a way to share it on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got thousands of subscribers now across the world. I've gotten feedback from people who are, in Germany, in India, different territories around the world that I'm going to be able to hopefully travel to connect with those people. And that's what I want to bring, is some of these mindsets from what I've learned in traveling, bring it to these people in a way that when they walk away from that session, from that experience, from that interaction, that they're ready to connect in a completely different way than they ever thought possible. It's on a number of levels. Hopefully it's 3 or 4 levels down where they're asking, deep questions. They're not talking about, hey, what do you do for a living? And, what do you do when you go home from work? It's, what is your hobby? What gets you on fire? What makes you extremely fulfilled and happy? And that is where you connect with people. That's what we're going to continue to ask on this show. We're going to ask people, what fires them up? What gets them happy? What have they been through in the hardest of times? And what mindsets, what strategies got them through it? And hopefully, as you hear that, as I mentioned earlier on, you're going to hear the voice in your head that's going to help you discover, self-discover, what's going to help you become the most connected you. And that's something I'm extremely passionate about. So that's the 10 connected lessons. That is the compilation of all the episodes we've had up to this point. Obviously, there's hundreds of other lessons that we could have put out. These were 10 that have really impacted me in my personal and professional life. I hope you got a lot of benefit. We're going to continue to have guests coming on the show in the coming weeks. Stay connected. My name is Greg Tomchick. Thanks so much.